We're joined today by Mark Russell. And Mark, I was kind of checking through the archives. Several years ago we had you on. It's been too long since we talked to you. How have you been?
Well, it's it's great to be stuck in the archives there. It's such a pigeon. Yeah, it's been a while. It really has. What I did since I saw you last, I retired and I came out, as the expression goes. There I was in the twilight of a mediocre career, which dates back to President Warren G. Harding, and I packed it in. I retired. And what got me out of retirement, this actually happened about a year and a half ago. Some congressmen went over to the Middle East, and they got drunk, and they went skinny dipping in the Sea of Galilee. I said, that's it. I'm coming out of retirement. That's pretty funny. Of course, if they had all drowned, it would be even funnier.
Too good not to come back and write new material for.
That's right.
Well, I was one of those folks that always looked forward to your specials on PBS when you did the live show from Buffalo. I miss those.
There's a lot of people from Buffalo in that area there. They used to have a non-stop American Airlines flight from Sarasota to Buffalo. Was the Requiem flight, because the only reason people went back was for a funeral. And they go to the funeral parlor, look at the deceased, and tell the cab driver to wait, and then they're back in Sarasota by next morning.
Well, you were probably one of the last people to actually do live comedy on TV, because that was live.
Something would break late in the day, and then I'd write a little ditty about it on the piano, and not trusting it to memory, I'd have the words literally duct taped to the bottom of the lens on the camera. Being PBS, we couldn't afford teleprompters, and so like if I had a show tonight as we're speaking, I mean, here we are. I live in Washington D.C., and we're too small to be a state, too big to be an insane asylum. And so both the president and the first lady are out of town. The president is in Europe, issuing more warnings to Vladimir Putin. How dare you invade another country for contrived, trumped-up reasons? That's our job. And Michelle is in China, where the number one the most popular television show in China is House of Cards. So yeah. She had to explain that well, of course, everybody on that show is a Republican.
I just watched the whole series on the Netflix, and that's a great show, but it doesn't give us a good image to the rest of the world, if that's the thing, how we run our country.
Well, I can't. It reminds me of too many of my friends, so I don't watch it.
Kevin Spacey knows how to get things done, though, on that show, doesn't he?
Oh, well, the fact that he just plays the usual slime character. He's a great actor, and it seems like everybody plays the same guy.
Great show. Well, like you said, when you see these stories, I guess you must, like Johnny Carson used to do, just kind of scour the newspapers and online to get material, and is that pretty much how you do it? Or
that's the way it works. It's almost an exact science, isn't it?
Yeah.
The president's going to meet with the Pope Francis tomorrow, and whenever any president meets any pope, first thing he asks is, tell me how that infallibility thing works. And I can see maybe Obama will ask the Pope to bless the Affordable Care Act, and the Pope will say, sorry, we're not doing miracles today.
Well, checking your website, Mark, you got a parody song on there of Obama, I'm Doing Fine. I guess you'll be doing that, or a version of that in Sarasota, right?
Yeah, I will be doing, when is that? That's a week from tonight, right?
A week from tonight, as we do it live, right?
I will be doing the official, unofficial new Florida State song. I'll be doing one called The Ballad of Edward Snowden. By the way, why don't we ask Snowden where that plane is? You know, he's a know-it-all, right? The Malaysian Prime Minister made it official this morning. He said, we're absolutely certain, as we suspected all along, we can now assume that the plane is still missing. And so for 2 weeks, they've been saying, well, the transponder is still missing, and the blitzer is still speculating on CNN.
I don't understand, Mark. They can find the little piece of crummy luggage with a tag on it, and you have the other half, halfway around the world. The airlines can find that, but they can't find a big plane.
That's right. You know, that's what the rings around Saturn are. That's all the lost luggage.
That's where it went.
But somebody ought to ask Snowden, really. I mean, Snowden, you know, he revealed last summer that the government spies on people. And it's as if Snowden was the last to know, right? I mean, if you want complete 100% privacy, I suggest you turn off all electronic devices and shut the hell up.
That's it. I figured if the government can't get a website working for healthcare, then who cares what kind of information they get from us?
Well, you know, the spy. After all, spying is about the collecting of intelligence, and these are the same people who, having collected intelligence on Edward Snowden, gave him top secret security clearance. He said we spy on foreign countries like Germany and France. Well, you know, ask older people when it was ever a good idea to trust Germany. You know,
right.
ask Maria Shriver if she'll ever trust another German.
That's right. That's an amazing marriage that he could have had a kid with the maid and she didn't know. I can't understand how that worked, but good for them, I guess. Until it blew up, but man, that's something. Yeah. Now you said you retired, but you're still working the club in Washington.
Yeah,
right?
I'm back at it again. That was it was more of a sabbatical,
right?
And I just took off a little while, and then I missed it. I got bored because I was relegated to being an amusing dinner guest, and the only problem with being it's the same reason I never became an actor. I don't like the idea of standing around waiting for my turn to talk.
Right. You don't get paid as much if you're just at dinner. You got to be in front of the audience.
It was very, very frustrating. You know, because it's a disease. I still have the writing habit, and so you write something, and so you'd have to wait till the best way. Wait till a subject comes up. You know, hey Mark, what do you think of Michelle's visit to China? And then I come in there. Otherwise, you have to interrupt what they're talking about. So I had enough of that. Decided.
Do you keep a little pocket recorder with you, Mark? It just says throughout the day, you think of something. You must, to being so topical, right? It must hit you throughout the day.
It's a good idea. I have done that. I do. I have a little pocket recorder, as opposed to typing on a computer, because I'm computer illiterate. I don't think I'm the only one in Florida who's computer illiterate.
Probably not.
I think the only reason senior citizens learn the computer is to email their grandchildren. That's the motivator right there.
You're not on
the only electronic device in my house I can work is the toaster. I can download Toast. Right.
You're not on Facebook, Mark? And
no, none of that. My wife does all that stuff. Yeah, I had to be dragged into this century kicking and screaming.
Now, when did you start doing? I know people remember you too from the Real People show. You did on NBC, but you Thanks for remembering that show.
Yeah. I did that show. The PBS show ran 30 years. It ran from 1974 to 2004. And prior to that, I was working locally in Washington D.C. at one of the hotels there. And so I always wanted to be. When I was a kid, I grew up in Buffalo, and I wanted to be a jazz musician. But when you only know 3 chords, that narrows you down to polka and zydeco. I'd have been a Polish Cajun music player.
Well, the way I always watched when you did your show, to be able to play the piano standing up like that and
yes, well, we don't do that anymore. No, don't try this at home. I was the chiropractor's best friend.
That's hard to do.
A couple of years ago, I thought, I'm going to try sitting down.
Okay.
And hey, this is much more comfortable. And I could actually reach bigger chords when I actually got a letter from a lady, and this is true, and this is rather inelegant, but I'm not making it up. She said, when you stand up at the piano, you look like a woman on the toilet. Isn't Isn't that nice?
That's a good fan letter.
Yeah, but she actually wrote me that. So I said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Sitting down, piano bench."
Well, what about your show that people are going to see down here at the Van Wezel on the 31st? And every show is different. You don't do the same show twice. You can't when you're topical, right?
No, I change the order around, and they think it's different.
Yeah, but I mean, the first 10 or 15 minutes is always brand new, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on where we are there. We may be at war. Who knows?
That's right.
Some tourists went to Moscow and they saw that Lenin is smiling in his tomb there.
That's right. I was going to say, remind you of the 60s and even the 70s when Russia was in the news all the time.
Well, it's like Rip Van Winkle. You know, Rip Van Winkle wakes up from his 20-year-old nap, picks up the paper, and there's the headline: Russian military intervention. Secretary of State tries to establish détente between Russia and Ukraine, and détente is one of those words left over from the last Cold War.
I remember
it was said that détente with the Russians was like going to a wife-swapping party, coming home alone.
At least Putin kind of looks in shape. The other Russian leaders always look like they were half dead, like Brezhnev.
Well, when the Cold War ended, all of a sudden we saw a Russian leader that we thought we could work with, and that was Gorbachev,
right.
Mikhail Gorbachev, and he was different, as we recall. And his wife, remember Raisa?
Sure.
And she was different. She became the first wife of a Russian leader to weigh less than he did.
That's right.
So, it's been a stormy time. I can't believe it. I can't believe this is happening. Well, see his next move now. See, in other words, I would not like to do a joke that every time Obama issues another warning that Putin moves into another country.
Well, we know Putin can run the Olympics.
Sanction, everything with every new sanction. It's a joke that Mort Sahl used to do during the Cold War, and he'd say, we're now on an even keel with the Russians. Every time Russia arrests an American, we arrest an American.
Yeah. I was going to say, at least Putin knows how to run the Olympics, or at least keep it somewhat safe.
That seems like a couple of years ago, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Wow.
Wow. Yeah. And so now, Obama's over there for used to be the G8, so we kicked out Putin. Now it's the G7, and then he goes to the Vatican tomorrow for the G2, and he and the Pope.
Well, I know, and also instead of, not also, but I mean, with the Van Wezel appearance, I think you're doing another one over in Stuart, Florida, aren't you? Before Sarasota. So you're doing a little Florida swing, huh? Tour? I'll be in
Stuart, and it's the old showbiz adage: if you can make it in Stuart, you can make it anywhere.
That's right.
So this stuff will be market tested.
You break it in Stuart before you come to Sarasota.
I just played 7 theaters up in the Northwest, in Oregon, Washington State, and Arizona. And Arizona, I think, is more conservative than many parts of Florida.
Yeah,
it's funny. These states like in Oregon, they'll say, well, when you're in Portland, you're not in the real Oregon, and people say, when you're in Miami, you're not in the real Florida. But Arizona is so stubborn, I mean, they won't change their clocks.
No, that's right.
And they're so stubborn. They say, we don't want some bureaucrat from Washington D.C. coming out here forcing clock control down our throats. All you want to do is take away our clocks. Clocks don't kill time. People kill time.
Well, Florida's a funny state, Mark. It depends what part. They say that I-4 corridor is really the line of demarcation, but Sarasota is kind of both. So you're going to have a mixed audience, I would say.
Now, are you down to 2 in the governor's race, or is it are there more?
I think just the 2 from what I've heard so far. Yeah. So, But that's going to be interesting to see what happens.
What's the governor's name?
Scott. Governor Scott.
What's his first name?
Now I forgot.
It's Rick Scott. Rick Scott.
Rick Scott.
That is the most forgettable name you can imagine.
But I think people think he's done a good job as far as getting the state back in shape financially. Now, people disagree.
I do too. I think he's done a fabulous job, especially since I knew his first name and you didn't.
That's right.
I think he's doing a great job, but then again, I don't live there.
That's true.
I don't. So I'll get there. I'll pick up the paper. And the paper. Do you remember newspapers, young people?
I miss the real. I still get it when I can, and just read it at breakfast. But people under a certain age don't even know what it is.
No. I also write in cursive.
Right.
Education went down the drain in this country when we did away with cursive.
Yeah. Right. Sure. So, kids don't know how to tell time anymore. They don't know how to read a clock. So yeah.
They think Florida's on the Pacific. They think Florida's on the Pacific Ocean.
That's right.
They think Huey Long was a Chinese restaurant.
That's right.
I think the French and Indian War was between France and India.
This is what you're going to hear, folks, next week. This is the break-in show on the radio.
No. This is just casual conversation.
Well, Mark, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, and appreciate you taking a few minutes to let the folks know. Again, next Monday, or the 31st, if you're listening on the replay, which is Monday night, 8 o'clock at the Van Wezel. And a few tickets left, but I know they're selling very rapidly, so get your tickets as soon as you can. And it's going to be a fun night of comedy and song. You do a bunch of songs as well.
Well, thank you for the plug. And just a slight warning, I will be using the F word.
Okay.
Filibuster.
That's right.
And all proceeds from the show go to the Governor Chris Christie Legal Defense Fund.
That's right. Well, you must have fun when you do a show up in Jersey with that topic.
Yeah, I was lucky to get out of there alive, actually.
Oh, man.